Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the concluding chapter of my long-awaited in-depth review of the Transformers 25th Anniversary Matrix of Leadership Complete series set from Shout Factory. So this part's a little bit different. We're not going to talk so much about the set, but attempt to answer a long-standing question of Transformers fans, namely, could Transformers Generation 1 ever see a Blu-ray release? That's what we're going to talk about today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Well, that's the big question, isn't it? I know when this set was first announced, a lot of fans who had shelled out for the Rhino sets back in the day were basically kind of, on the fence about upgrading to the Shout Factory set. And one thing I saw a lot of them say was, well, I'm not going to bother unless it comes out on Blu-ray. A lot of people just don't seem to understand what is necessary in order to put a show on Blu-ray. It's not just a matter of taking the old master tapes and tossing them on a Blu-ray. I mean, you can do that. There are some 80s cartoons that have actually been put on Blu-ray, just not in high definition, basically just to save disc space. I think it was over in Germany, they put out some releases like Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers, I remember it was one, where basically they'd fit all 65 episodes on 2 Blu-ray discs. Because they're standard def, they're not high def. It's basically just standard def content shoveled onto a Blu-ray disc. Now that, you could certainly do that with Transformers. That would be easy. Just take the Shout Factory Masters and toss them onto a Blu-ray disc. You know, you could probably fit the whole series on three or four discs. There you go. Done. But of course, when you say you want to see it on Blu-ray, you want to see it in glorious high definition, right? Now, the problem with a lot of shows from that era is, while they were originally assembled on film, and shot on film, all the final editing and mastering and such was done on standard def video. This is pretty standard practice back in the 80s and 90s to do all the mastering on video. Of course, nowadays everything's done in high definition all the way through the production process, either digitally or on film or what have you. But back then, it just wasn't the same thing. It was all about cranking out product as quickly and cheaply as possible. So, in the case of animated shows, they would shoot them on film, obviously, because they didn't have still frame video at the time, really, so you had to do animation on film. And then they would transfer the film to video for the final editing, mastering, and mixing. So, in the case of Transformers, this was no exception. Transformers was shot on film, as we know, because we have 35mm work prints of the work in progress. And then all the final editing and mastering and mixing was done on standard def video. And that's where the complete masters are. So the big question is, what would it take to prep Transformers for Blu-ray? Well, obviously a large chunk of the work is already done by having the work prints, because the work prints are already 35mm film prints. So the first step would be transferring all of those over in high definition. Nice high resolution scans, maybe 4K scans of the original 35mm prints, and then you'd have nice high-res digital files to work with. Then it becomes a matter of correcting the incomplete or error-filled parts. So how do you do that? If you're doing it on Blu-ray, you can't really be dropping in shots from a standard def broadcast master tape, because it's going to be completely obvious. You'll suddenly go from high def to standard def, and then back again, and then back again, and then back again. It's going to be really obvious whenever there's a change. Now, one prime example of this type of process that comes to mind immediately is the current Blu-ray releases of Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, Star Trek The Next Generation, similarly, was shot on film. All the model shots and everything were all shot on film, but all the post-production editing and post-production effects like phasers and transporter effects and things like that were all done on standard def video, and all the final sound mixing was done on standard def, and basically the whole final production process was done on standard def. So what they've done in that case is they went into the vaults, found all the original film prints from the original production process, dug them out, rescanned them, and have literally been recreating the episodes shot for shot using the original film elements, but this time in full-blown high def. And then where necessary, they've been recreating the post-production effects work in high definition as well to match the originals, using the broadcast masters as a guide to recreate the effects and everything as closely as possible. And the results have apparently been stunning. So the question is, if they could do that level of work for Star Trek, couldn't they, in theory, do the same thing for Transformers? I mean, you've got the work prints to start with. You've got the broadcast master tapes as a guide. It should be possible. And honestly, giving it a lot of thought, I think it is possible. It is absolutely possible. What it would entail is starting with the work prints and then slotting in shots from the broadcast master tapes as a guide for the shots that need to be corrected, and then literally using bits and pieces of the image from the 35mm film prints and then digitally redrawing and recreating the elements that need to be redrawn. In fact, I would think the best way to do it would be to do like a multi-layer thing in Photoshop or what have you, where you literally have the frame from the broadcast master as your back layer, and then have a layer on top where you literally draw over it. Just specifically the elements that need to be fixed. Like, for example, there's some shots in one episode where a character's mouth isn't moving, but in the final broadcast version it is moving. Well, how hard would that be to recreate? You could use the entire frame from the 35mm print, and all. The only thing you would have to redraw would be the mouth moving. And that's like, what, half a dozen different mouth movements? And then you just match the frames. You know, it could be done. So it's not a matter so much of could it be done, it's a matter of will they. So yes, it is possible, in my opinion. It is absolutely possible, but it would involve some painstaking, frame-by-frame, hand-painted correction and recreation in order to properly create a fully complete, correct high-definition master for Blu-ray. So yeah, I think it's absolutely possible, but then really what it boils down to is the time and expense of going through that process versus how many are they actually going to sell. Because how many releases have we had of Transformers on home video now? We've had the Rhino sets, we've got the Matrix set, the complete series set, we've got the 15-disc complete series set, and then we've got the individual season releases as well. So that's what? Rhino, Matrix, complete series, and that's 4 releases right there already that we've had on DVD. 3 of which are from Shout Factory. So I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. I mean, already with this coming out as the second major DVD release, a lot of people were reluctant to double dip. So if we have another release, this time of a painstakingly restored and remastered Blu-ray edition, would those same people then be more inclined to double dip? I don't know. Like I say, I saw a lot of people saying, I'm not going to double dip unless it's on Blu-ray. So if they do that, would those people be inclined to double dip then? I mean, I think it would be a substantial quality upgrade, obviously. I mean, the level of detail in the image that you get. Even, a lot of people say, oh, animation doesn't give you that much more detail in high definition. That's a load of crap, okay? It absolutely does. The lines are sharper, colors are brighter, and in particular with the painted backgrounds, you see way more detail in those painted backgrounds than you do in standard def. You know, I can say this from experience because I've seen stuff from this era and earlier put in high def to see what the difference is. I mean, look at some old anime. For example, like I have the Dragon Ball Z, the first 2 Dragon Ball Z Blu-rays that they put out. Not the Dragon Ball Z Kai, but the ones of just the original episodes. And they look fantastic. And those are just from 16mm prints. These have 35mm prints, so these would look even more fantastic-er. So, yeah, I absolutely think it's possible to put it on Blu ray, but it would be a lot of work to put it together. And I don't know how willing they are to go to the time and expense of doing that for what, by that point, could be a very niche collection for collectors. I don't know that they would sell. I mean, it's not going to be on the same level as Star Trek The Next Generation, okay? As much as Transformers fans like to think we rule the world, we don't. Star Trek is way bigger than us. So they can justify the expense a little bit more. It's got way bigger, wider appeal. Obviously, there's more interest now in Transformers than there was, say, 10 years ago, thanks to the big budget movies. I mean, Transformers are just a lot more in the public eye and the public consciousness now than they were a decade ago. But, you know, whether you like the movies or not, I'm kind of mixed on them myself, but maybe that's a subject for another time. Who knows what the future holds? I would love to see Transformers on Blu-ray. I would buy that in a heartbeat. A lot of people wonder, well, what about the movie? The movie surely could be put on Blu-ray easily because it's a film print. And the answer to that is yes. It absolutely could be put on Blu-ray easily. However, it hasn't been. Well, there was a UK Blu-ray release, but we didn't get one over here in North America, and the UK release is out of print now. Why is that, you may be wondering? Well, simply because Hasbro doesn't own the rights to it. It's actually owned by Paramount currently. Paramount owns anything to do with Transformers movies. They're the ones putting out the Bayformers, yeah. So it's thanks to Paramount wanting to put all the spotlight of Transformers movies on their new movies that we're not getting the old movie on Blu-ray, which kind of sucks because it's a pretty important chapter in the overall saga. But oh well. At least I've got 3 different editions of the movie on DVD, which we'll talk about another time. So that's pretty much it. I don't know what more I can say. Yes, it's possible for the Transformers to be put on Blu-ray, but I wouldn't hold off getting this in the hopes that there's a Blu-ray release around the corner, because I don't see it happening anytime soon, honestly, if ever. It'd be great if it did, but I don't know that it's going to. So that's that. That's my take on it. Take it or leave it. Alrighty, that is it from me to you for now. At long last, we're done. The Transformers Matrix set has been reviewed. I hope it was all you hoped it would be and a whole lot more. If not, well, tough cookies. Alrighty, that is it from me to you for now. So until next time, thanks for watching, and sayonara. Now, this episode, we're not going to talk so much about the set, but talk about whether or not it could ever be done.